Every day, thousands of Americans, mostly men, mostly black, are behind bars for the crime of being too poor. It's the new slavery, and almost no one knows about it. In the new slavery, the whip is silent, and people are not sold like cattle. The Civil War took care of that. This new slavery is something entirely different. Let me explain. I'm Alan Cohen, director of freefamily.org, a not-for-profit organization dedicated to getting the government out of our families, and author of America Solved, a New Family for the 21st Century. So, how is slavery still with us? Because the slave master is none other than our own federal government, whose idiotic policies has destroyed the American family. It started for the poor men in 1962, when our federal government paid mothers welfare only if the father was not in the home. Fathers were evicted from the family home in favor of a check, depriving their children of fatherly love and affection. With the Great Society of Lyndon Johnson, America became a welfare state. As the cost of welfare skyrocketed, as did the percentage of children born outside of marriage, the government needed a fall guy. It was fiscal idiocy, but cutting benefits was not a choice for a Congress that wanted to be reelected. Congress chose to expand benefits and then rob the poor to pay for it. It did not matter that back in 1965, a blue ribbon panel found that a majority of fathers of children on welfare were too poor to support them. The federal government chose to create a child support system to establish and enforce child support orders, to take money back from the same poor fathers it had evicted from their children's lives back in the early 60s. It did not matter that a vast majority of fathers were already supporting their children, and most important, being fathers to their children. The government declared that fathers were not parents, they were providers, and Congress was going to tax them. A sort of sex tax, treating all mothers as prostitutes and the cost for raising their children as the price for the encounter. And never mind that the cost of enforcement was more than what was even collectible. Never mind that only cash payments were reimbursable to the federal government. It was a tiny fraction of the cost of the entire system, a virtual drop in the ocean. And never mind that the cost of a jail cell was 10 times the actual debt. There was a national emergency. Child support arrears was skyrocketing, and Congress was going to fix it. Of course, no one really mentioned that a vast majority of the arrears in child support was owed by the same poor people. And no one mentioned that more than half of all back child support was actually owed not to the mother, but to the federal government. After the riots in Ferguson in 2014, the Department of Justice criticized St. Louis County municipalities for funding themselves on the backs of the poor. Well, that's exactly what is happening with the child support system. But America's new slavery is not confined to black men, and good jobs is not enough. And jobs won't fix the epidemic of fatherlessness in America. Those answers in part 2 of The New Slavery. I'm Alan Cohen for freefamily.org. Thank you for listening.